What I'm about to say will shock you. When you come to America as an international student, majority of the people you are going to deal with are going to be real Americans. I know that sounds obvious, but bear with me. Because of how huge American media is around the world, most of us who come to this country come thinking we know America or what Americans are like. But the Americans you see on TV do not even represent a majority of what America is like. There are 50 states in America, and all 50 states feel like 50 different countries. Anytime I've visited a different state, it feels like I'm in a whole different country with a whole different set of people. One cultural shock you're going to realize that, and as much as there is a one unifying identity called American, each segment of American have their idea of what it is being an American. And it's not like they sat down and wrote, this is what our idea of being an American is. It just happens to be based on where they live. So people who live in the South are different from people who live in the East Coast, who are different from people who live in the West Coast, who are different from people who live in the Midwest. So my 5 cultural shocks I'm about to share with you on this episode of How to Be an International Student are based on my experience living in Arkansas and visiting Texas and Oklahoma. So basically, it's my experience dealing with people in the South. It might not be the same in other parts of America, but I'm highly confident that the threads run true. My name is Nenebi Tony. Welcome to Do or Die. And I just started this series to share my experience with people who are preparing to come here as an international student and also connect with other international students who may have experienced living here and just anybody who loves to know about other cultures. Let's get right into it. Cultural shock number 1. Being too early is almost the same as being too late. Let me explain. America is notorious around the world for being time conscious. Being on time is one of the main characteristics of American efficiency. But what I didn't realize is being on time means being on time. It doesn't mean being too late or being too early. You would go to an event, you see people sitting in their cars. Sometimes I'm an inquisitive person, so I ask questions. I'll be like, yo, is the place open? They'll be like, yeah. So why are you sitting here? They'll be like, I'll join you soon. They usually won't tell you why they are sitting out, but you realize as you stay here for some time that if the event is scheduled to start at say 10 a.m., people start moving in from 9:45, which is sometimes too early. It's mostly from 9:50, you see people start moving in. My friend Juliana told me that the window is 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after. Going over 10 minutes before the arrival time is considered as rude as being late. If you are late, that is a big no-no. But if you are early, that is also not a big no-no, but that is a no. Not a strong no, but a no. One thing that I've learned to do over here is I have to figure out what is the time that it takes me to get where I'm going. So the reason why I used to arrive at places early is because I knew about the American efficiency and why it's important to be on time. And because I didn't want to be late, I always would schedule myself to arrive ahead of time. But after some time, I realized that arriving ahead of time is not as good as I thought it was. So if the arrival time is 10, I try to show up by 9:50. Actually, it has happened to me before where I would try to go into the class and it will be locked because it's not yet 15 minutes to the start of the class. And it will be open 15 minutes to the start of the class. That happens. That's something you have to be mindful of. Too early equal to too late. Now, the second cultural shock may be a me problem. Americans don't make eye contact. And this is why I say it's a me problem. I always grew up believing that eye contact communicates confidence and honesty. When I'm talking to people, I look them in the eye so that they know I'm being for real and I'm a confident person. And this way of thinking was affirmed by an interview I watched of my favorite American, Kanye West. I'm sorry, I love that guy still. In 2015, I watched an interview Kanye did with a media house in the UK, and he was sharing a story about a guy who was trying to sell something to his dad. And then his dad told the guy, "You can't look me in the eye whilst you are trying to make this sale. How am I supposed to believe you believe what you are saying? So in order to communicate that you believe what you are saying, look me in the eye." I thought that Kanye West's dad was sharing an experience that almost everybody in America knew. But I came here and I realized that it's actually the opposite. Probably Ray West was telling that guy to make eye contact because Ray West is also disgusted at how Americans don't make eye contact when they talk. I guess you never know. Which brings me to my third shock is people don't say no, they just ghost. So the thing about not making eye contact comes from the fact that Americans don't like to be offensive. They go out of their way to be not offensive. And sometimes in their bid to not be offensive, they come across as insincere. So instead of somebody telling you no, they rather delay you or do things that would communicate that they are not messing with you, but won't say the words. I'll share a story here and then it will connect with what I'm saying. Remember one time, closed from work around 5 p.m., a colleague at work offered me a ride. I was supposed to go to Walmart before going home. So I said, "Thank you, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm not going home straight." And this is somebody I was sort of talking to. And I think she was also catching the vibe. She offering a ride to me was her way of communicating that she sees what I'm trying to show her. And I didn't catch that, so I refused a ride. A few weeks later, we were talking and I was trying to take the conversation there. She was like, "What are you trying to do? You already rejected me." I said, "What do you mean I rejected you?" She said, "The day when I offered you a ride, you said no." And I said, "I indeed had to go to Walmart. I didn't say no because I wanted to reject you. I said no because I had to make a stop somewhere." She said I could have told her that and she would take me to Walmart before taking me home. She has a car, I don't. Because of how people communicate rejection, negative emotions in America, she expected that that is what I was doing. But that is not what I was doing. And that is something you're also going to experience. That because you're communicating with people from different cultures, you are going to see things differently from them from time to time, and it's okay. You're going to learn and grow from them. Now, that ties me to my fourth point. Boundary feels like ghosting. So now, that is where discernment comes in. Sometimes when somebody is establishing boundary with you, they do it in the way I did the person who offered me the ride. Sometimes people establish boundaries and it feels like rejection. How do you know which is which? I've been here for just 3 years. I haven't figured that part out yet. So, as a rule of thumb, when somebody is being indirectly telling me no, next time I take it as they establishing boundaries and I respect their boundaries going forward. And if it persists, I know that they are telling me no, so I walk away. I don't mean this in just the romantic sense. It's in everything. It's in how your professors will react with you. It's how your friends in class will react with you. This across experiences in the culture. Which brings me to my final point. Americans separate friendship from obligations. Now, before I explain this point, let me say this. In Ghana, if you are talking to somebody or greeting somebody or waving at somebody and you use your left hand, is considered offensive. There is no reason why using your left hand should be offensive, except the fact that that is what Ghanaian society have decided to make the left hand offensive. So you can't go to Ghana and tell a Ghanaian, use my left hand in America and it's not offensive, so I can use it in Ghana. Most times if you do that in Ghana, you're a foreigner, they let you get away with it. Same way, if you flaunt cultural expectations in America and you're a foreigner, they might let you get away with it for some time. I say that to establish that different cultures have a different expectations of people. In America, friendship doesn't come with the obligations they come with in Ghana. I'll give you an example. Homegirl who offered me the ride. Let's call her Ride Girl. Ride Girl, one time I was trying to make a call with her phone. I noticed that the last dialed number was 911. 911 is police code. Asked her, why did you dial 911? And she said she heard some noise in her house when she was sleeping. Now, in America, when people have problems, they look out for the institutions that deal with the problem. When people feel a health emergency, they call 911 and they get an ambulance. If people feel fear, they call the police, especially white people. Individuals don't feel obligations to deal with other people's issues unless they have a very strong connection. Even family don't feel obligation to deal with family's issues. If somebody have a health care, they are more likely to call ambulance and go to the hospital, and the hospital will call their family. That is likely to be the chain of events in America. Whereas in Ghana, if I have a health care, I'll call my family. Somebody will come to my house with a taxi and pick me to the hospital. So my point is, because of the way American society is set up, the obligation of help is outsourced to institutions. Friendship, things like somebody showing up in your house unannounced, somebody offering you a ride, with my Ride Girl did. It's not things that people typically do in America. Be mindful of how your friendship will play out with Americans. Your friendship with other international people, whether it's Africans or Asians or South American, is going to be similar to your friendship with people from your country. Because most cultures, especially Asia, Africa, and South America, are similar. We are more affectionate. Europeans and Americans, North Americans, are a bit different. I won't say North Americans because Mexicans are also a bit more like the rest of us. I'll say Americans and Europeans have a bit more close-off approach to friendship than the rest of the world do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That is why I use the example of the left hand. It's just the way they do things. Thank you for watching this episode of how to be an international student. I hope you learned something. Let me know what you learned. If you have some cultural shocks I missed, share with me. And in another episode, we'll talk about other stuff. Subscribe to my channel and see you when I see you, like they say here.